What's going on, guys, and welcome back to today's video where we're working on the Hellcat swapped Ram 1500. So if you guys have been following along, last video we ended up getting our supercharger on, and you can see it's off right now, but we finally got everything fitted. We got our wiring harness in here, and where we left off last was our heater hoses. Like I mentioned, I have to make up the lines for our heater hoses to go across from there to there. It's got those two 90-degree fittings that we have to use, and then I also had to take the charger off because I had to get our Earl's adapter for our fuel line there. And the other thing too is our heater hoses are showing up, so it's going to be much easier to put them on and put the clamps on back here with these off versus trying to do it there on the vehicle. So I want to be able to access those. Other thing I'm working on now is I was just underneath the vehicle. This is our fuel filter from Holley, so we're going to mount this to the frame rail, and this is going to allow us to have our hose length. So like I was mentioning before, I want to make up the fuel line that goes from the fuel rail and across. Even though we're not finished or haven't even started yet on our fuel system, I wanted to put this on the fuel rail. That way I can make up the line that goes from our filter to that fitting on the back of the fuel rail, because I want to be able to tighten that line, and in order to tighten the line I have to make up the line and get it to length, flush it out, so that I can finalize the line that goes from here to that fitting, and then that's done, the charger can go back on. So I'm gonna go ahead, find a good suitable location for this. I'll show you guys where I'm going to mount it, and then we'll move on to the next step. All right, boys, not a whole lot of room down here, so didn't record the process of me putting it in here, but this is where it goes. So I just gotta tighten it down, and then once I get these two back in there, then the factory line will clip back in place. And this is beautiful, you guys, so I really like the way this came out. Also, before I put this on and tighten everything and finalize it, I'm also going to take this back off, and I'm going to put in our Earl's fittings. So one of them's here, but I haven't tightened it down, but the other dash 10 over here, I'm gonna put that in. That way this thing is all ready to go. We just have to add our lines, and I don't have to take this off anymore. All right, so our fittings are all on. I just put some tape on the end just so that it's sealed up, so that no debris or dust or dirt gets in there. Let's go ahead and mount it back in the vehicle. Okay, so we're back under here. So you can see we got the 4 nut certs in here. So we're good to go. And I'm gonna go ahead and just mount it back here with our bolts. All right, boys, so super happy with how that came out. Like I said, this line is just gonna tuck right back in, and our fittings are gonna go here. So here's our tank. So this one's gonna go up to the fuel pump, and then this one will go over here, and then we'll cross over at the factory location. I'm probably gonna disconnect the factory fuel line from here, try to cap it off somehow, some way for now, because at some point, if I ever go to a return style setup, it'd be nice to use the factory hose to use our return. So if we ever wanted to go that route, we could use the factory one, so there's no point in completely eliminating it just yet. But I do want to get rid of the line that's essentially just dangling here at this point, because we're not using this one now. So let me get from under here and move on to the next thing. All right, I was just looking at a few things, and the heater hose on the Ram is, I think it's either 3/4 or 5/8, substantially larger than the stuff on the Hellcat. So you can see the size difference, hopefully. Maybe the camera doesn't do it justice, but you can hopefully see the difference. I think this is 1/2 inch. I think this is 5/8 or even 3/4. So I have one of these, but it doesn't really help me in this situation. But what I'm gonna do is we're gonna take the Hellcat swap Dakota, and we're gonna run over to the auto parts store. I actually saw that Dorman sells one of these connections in a straight, which would help me instead of a 90. So I'm gonna bring this over and see if it's the same. I might buy one, because if I can get it to come out straight, then I could just go up, over, and into our heater core, instead of having to mess with these 90s that are kind of in a weird spot for me. So I'm gonna bring all this stuff with us. We'll hop in the Dakota. Hopefully it doesn't rain on us. Let's go for a rip. Here we go. Yes, sir. Let's go. All right, so here's what we bought. We got some oil. I've got a Mopar filter. I don't know if it's going to fit. We'll double check, and then we'll reassess, and then I got some fittings and stuff from the parts store, so let's head back. Okay boys, so we're back. So here's the Mopar filter. This is actually for 2014 Ram with the 5.7. So this is a Mopar part, and I just tested this. I'm just showing you guys again. So this is the dilemma. So with the oil cooler adapter and the steering rack here, cannot get that in. So she's a no-go, boys. So what I did was I just hopped on and I ordered the Mopar part. So there's an oil filter adapter with the cooler, and it mounts the filter in the front right here. So obviously I have that coming so that I can put this here, and it's a different filter as well, so it'll be a bigger filter. It's the same one as the Trackhawk. So I'm going to return this Mopar filter since it's a smaller one. I was just wondering if I could get away with putting the smaller filter on there and not having to change that adapter, but obviously I do. So hopefully, it says that thing will be here in 4 days, but hoping it shows up sooner, or at least in 4 days, so that we can keep on schedule here. And as for fittings, I went ahead and got these plastic adapters. So they go from 5/8 to 3/4, so it's a step up or step down, since no matter what we do, we're gonna have to go from the smaller size heater hose on the engine to the larger size. So got 2 of those adapters so that we can step up to the different hose size. And then I ended up getting, so this is the one that was on the vehicle, was these 90s. And I found this fitting that's a straight. So it just gives us some options here. This straight fitting does fit on here. So we can go straight and up, or we can come out on 90s. So I'm just gonna play with it, see what comes out best. And then once I do that, then we'll come up and around. And then we'll put the unions, the plastic unions, probably somewhere in the center here, and get everything fitted up. So other thing I'm gonna do too is, now that the fuel filter is mounted, is I can technically put the charger back and decide what kind of fittings I wanna run here. So I don't know, based on whatever way everything lands, whether I wanna put a 45 here, maybe a 90, or just a straight, and then I can put our hose on here and crimp it. So I need to get that on there so I can get that figured out, so that I can make up our fuel hose. So let me go ahead and get this charger back up here. It's probably going to go in and out a bunch of times, you guys, by the looks of it. So we'll get it back in here, see if I can figure out whether I want to use straight fittings or 90s here, and then also get our fuel line situated. All right guys, so it's a little bit later. I didn't end up getting much done on the truck because I wanted to just go for a rip and just casual drive in the Hellcat, and I went to Harbor Freight and I got a welding table. I got a new multimeter because I definitely needed one, and I decided to take a look at the Eastwood. Eastwood did send me a manual of, you know, some different voltages you could check. So I checked it and it was outputting the correct voltage, and I reached down and I tried welding for a second, and all of a sudden it started welding, and I thought that was weird. And then I went over here to try it on a test piece and it stopped welding. So what I did was I took the cable. I'm like, man, it's weird, this intermittent. And I took the cable and I just jiggled it right where it goes into the machine, and it started arcing right there. So you can see here what happened was this steel collar, I guess, that goes over here. You can probably and hopefully see the arcing that was going on. So it lost a connection right here. I don't know why this is so short, but essentially this metal thing goes over here and I guess it gets crimped down, but it looks like this never got crimped, if I were to guess. It looks like that's supposed to be crimped, but just never got crimped from the factory. So I'm assuming if I put this in here, crimp it, I might have a welder again, boys. So that'll be good, because I really didn't feel like shopping for a welder. And I honestly, I enjoy this welder. It's been doing good and doing everything that it needs to do, but just, you know, crapped out on us at the wrong time. So that way, because I have to get those other brackets made, like I was telling you, and if I have the MIG, I'll be able to just whip through the brackets a lot faster than the TIG welder. This just makes quick work of, you know, things like that. Okay, the welder works. She's back in business, boys. All right, so weekend has passed. If I didn't already say, that was on the weekend when I was still working on this thing. But what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna put this back up here, and I'm gonna try to figure out my fuel line arrangement. So I'm not sure if I wanna do a 45, a 90, maybe a straight. So I want to get this finalized, and also the heater lines and how they're going to come through the back here, whether it's going to come over or, you know, slip in behind. One way or another, we're going to figure this out. So I want to see if I want to put a straight on here or leave this 90, all that good stuff. So let's go ahead, put the charger back in, and let me figure out what we're going to do. So supercharger's back in here, and the way it looks like it's going to work out for me is to put the 90s facing this way, because I've got a nice few inches right there, if you guys can see. So 90s here, I'm going to use these factory loops, and then we'll put our unions up here, and it'll run across behind the supercharger there and over to our heater hoses right there. So that's that. And then in here I gotta figure out what fuel fitting I want to use, but let me finalize this stuff over here first. We'll get one thing knocked out. All right boys, so I got the heater hoses all hooked up. So they come both through here, and then they come across and go into our firewall right there. I also did get our fuel fitting on here, so I've got a 45 on here right now, and for me to get the camera in here, it's probably gonna be a little fun, but I got a 45 in there. I might try a 90, but at least the 45 fits for sure. So either way, I'm gonna mess with it a little bit, finalize that, and then I'll start making up my fuel line here in just a minute. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and assemble our 90 onto our hose. So we've got both from Mr. Gasket. This is our Dash 10, so let's put the two together. So there we go, you guys. We've got our fitting all on, and she's fully bottomed out. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that on there onto our fuel rail, and then I'm going to route it down to our fuel filter over here, measure it up to length, and then we can cut it, put a straight fitting on it. Okay, so our fuel line is made up, so that can go back on. I did flush it out, you guys, so definitely important to make sure that after you finish cutting it and assembling it, that you flush it out. So flush it out with gasoline, so we're good to go. What I am going to work on right now is I was doing a little bit more thinking and consideration on our valve cover situation and our fill cap. And I think what I'm gonna do is I am going to swap them. And what I am going to do is, this one originally goes to your intake, like your intake arm right here. And what I'm essentially gonna do is, I'm probably gonna run a catch can setup on this regardless. And this one originally went from here to here. And what happens is if I flip them, this is gonna end up at the back, that's gonna end up at the back over there. And I have this cap on this one. So one of them, I think temporarily what I'll probably do is just cap it for now. And then I'll probably end up running like a dual catch can setup at some point on this thing. But I am going to cap it. I think it's up high enough that it's not going to, you know, oil sloshing to the back. It's not like we're going Mach 1 here. And I think having it this high, it's not going to be an issue. And what I'm going to do is I'm probably just going to cap the one on the one side that goes to our intake arm. And then when this ends up over there, I'm going to end up just running it to here. So I'll just extend the actual line. And I'll probably end up running a catch can on it, like I mentioned, but for now, what I can do is just use these fittings. Here's the two lines that I'm mentioning, so they click onto these. So you can just remove them, and I'm probably going to end up just putting my own hose on this and just get rid of this factory hose here. So in order to remove that driver side valve cover, I am gonna have to remove the brake booster. So I'm gonna see about taking the battery out, taking the brake booster out, swinging it over here a little bit, and hopefully that's enough clearance to get it out. We'll find out in just a minute. Actually, you guys, check this out, kind of cool. I just took a quick look underneath the covers on the Hellcat, and this one's actually at the rear from the factory. So similar valve cover, oil pickup or oil fills in the same place, but look, our breather is at the rear. So this one was at the rear on the factory, so we should be perfectly fine flipping them and having our vents on the back. So I'm not too worried about it. I guess I don't necessarily have to cap them, but you can see there that that one goes all the way to the back. So we should be good, boys. Let's get to work. All right, so I've been busy. I promise it didn't take that long, but I got the brake booster swung out of the way. I had to loosen up the bolts on the ABS module just so that I could manipulate the lines and there wasn't a whole lot of stress on the brake lines. But got it swung out of the way, and then I've got our coil packs out and all of our bolts out of here. So hoping that I can get this valve cover out of here without too much issue. It's really tight through here, but probably gonna have to use two hands and hopefully manipulate it. That bump in the back firewall is gonna be a bugger, but let me see what I can do. Okay, so I was actually able to get it out. I was a little bit concerned with that big rise there that we wouldn't be able to pull it out, but was able to pull it out. So this side is a breeze though. So we're gonna take that one off. That one shouldn't be hard at all. It was just this one that I was a little bit concerned about, and then we'll swap them. All right, boys, well, I ended up spending the night getting this stuff all buttoned back together. So we've got our valve covers swapped now, and now we're good to go. So our filler cap's not over here. Now our filler neck is over there, and everything worked out. What I just received was a bunch of parts. So I got these off eBay. They came in separate boxes, but it's not like it shipped this way. I just consolidated everything into one box here. So I got another one of these covers because I was missing one. So we got one more cover that goes on the engine. So got that. Let me lay this all out and show you guys what we got. All right, so I am waiting for more parts to arrive, but we've got our bottle for our coolant tank for supercharger, so I can go ahead and connect those lines. I got a lower radiator hose. I'm not sure what combination of fittings, but I ended up just getting a used hose, as you can see, and whatever needs to go to this neck. Because as you guys can see here, our lower coolant neck is completely in a different spot. On our 5.7, it was over here on the opposite side. So I'm hoping maybe with that, as you can see there, that one does a 180. So it goes and does a 180. So I'm hoping I can get it to come around and connect to this one. We'll see if it makes it, or if we got to come up with some other combination, maybe like one union in the middle, but see what happens there. And then this here, I don't know if it's going to work, but we'll test that out in the next video. That's the tray that goes over here, but it's got an additional mount right here that I'm hoping I can use, so we'll see what happens there. And then that stuff, this is not related to the Ram, but this is our double-sided tape for the Hellcat so that we can put on our fender flares. So got the 3M double-sided tape. I got a whole like 30 feet of it so that I can put those on, because they're held on the exterior with double-sided tape, and then there's just screws that go on the inside there. So I got all that stuff. Probably wait another couple weeks or so, and whenever it's absolutely necessary to put them on, then I got the stuff ready to go. It's gonna be a wrap for this video, you guys. I want to get this video out for you guys and continue to work on this and continue to make progress on it, but I wanted to update you guys with this video. So that's what we've accomplished so far. A lot more on the way, but we're making good progress. Give this video a thumbs up, check out the other videos, and make sure you're subscribed as well. We'll catch you guys on the next video.